What's good, everybody? My name is Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. Today, I'm not here to waste your time. We're going to be talking about 3 secrets that I have for you in order to get past your creative struggles. Now, they might seem a little bit simple at first, but sometimes I think that the biggest reasons why we get into creative block or beat block or whatever it is that you want to call it is simply because of the perspective that we have going into it. A lot of times is we can't reshape that perspective in order to kind of figure out the problems that we actually need to solve. So before we get into it, please do me a favor. If you like this content, like and subscribe the video, leave me a comment with your own strategies if you have them. But without further ado, let's talk about strategy number 1. So the first thing that we're going to get into is the idea about simplifying. Now, simplifying can be a lot of different things. For this in particular, I have a lot of struggles with making what's called halftime music because I find that my sound design doesn't really cater towards the aesthetic. And so what I wanted to do was just focus on the arrangement aspect, and to counter that, I simplified the sound design. So I made something that's kind of in the sense of something that's more chiptune or in 8-bit or whatever it is that you want to call it, but with the same rhythms that you would find from this particular genre. So the second trick is actually one that you may or may not have heard from before, but I want to give you my perspective on it. It's the idea about duplicating and variating. Now, if you look over here, then you can see that everything is relatively pattern-based when it comes to quantized music. And there are different ways to do this as well when you're writing freeform music or whatever the stuff, if you've heard my other things. But in the case of making loops or cultivating the super loop, one of the most common problems that I hear people running into is this 8-bar loop of death. And so to get out of that, what I would suggest is starting with about 8 bars, I guess, or 2 bars even, if it makes it a little bit more easy, and focus on building all the ideas for this particular loop that you can. And then what you want to do is focus on turning things on and off, as you can kind of see here with different things, or dragging things over here. And when you're ready, whatever section that you're making, most people start with the main section. You want to take everything that you have and duplicate it to the next, and then drag these ideas and separate them in a way that kind of jigsaws the rest of the arrangement. So for example, I had this stuff going on during the beginning of the super loop. But the problem was that whenever I was listening to this, it was actually competing with the main bass line that we have here, the da-na-na-na. And so even though I didn't think that those two ideas worked together, what I did instead was I separated them in order to kind of keep the same piece of arrangement. And what that did essentially was double my content. And if you don't know what to do, or you don't really know how to duplicate and vary it, another great example that I have is the last video that I put up, which is how to make complex music out of simple music. But the idea still stands about making duplications and then just making small variations to it. It seems kind of simple, but literally, like, if you can kind of tell yourself to do it during the beginning, if you don't know what else to do, then just make it twice as long, because a lot of times people want to hear that 8-bar loop at least a couple times, right? And then you could do something as small as change the hi-hat pattern, or add a filter onto something, or, you know, just remove one of the elements that you have, and suddenly instead of an 8-bar loop, you have a 16-bar loop. Which gets us into the final thing that I want to discuss, which is understanding the idea of a beginning, middle, and end. Now, by nature, this tune is actually a really short tune. I think that it's only maybe a couple minutes long. But as you can see here, the only thing that I have for the intro before we get into here is the short beginning of a sound, which is the same thing from this sound in particular, just stretched out. This sound is just this in the beginning, which is a small indication that we're going to hear that sound again during that, and gives us a very quick intro. But the main thing is that in order to make a song, or in order to kind of make everything feel complete, I guess would be the best way to describe that, is you need a beginning, a middle, and end. The duration in between does not matter. I had a wonderful discussion with one of my best friends the other day about how some of my music feels like, even though it's only 3 minutes, feels like a 10-minute tune. And when you listen to a progressive trance tune, it can feel like 3 minutes, even though the tune itself is 8 minutes respectively. And I think the reason because of that is understanding the idea about storytelling, about how you voice or how you narrate these moments. And so the only thing that you have to do in order to finish a tune is write a beginning, write your main section out, which is something that you probably practice every time you open the DAW. Then all you have to do is make some kind of simple outro, which in this case, there isn't really one, but it still works. Just a delay out, and that's all it has to be. So don't overcomplicate it. It's very easy to get inside of your own head. But remember, when you're making music, the number one thing is that you need to be enjoying it. Even if you have a deadline, try to make the most of it. But most of the time, whenever you have some kind of creative block, it is in fact because of your perspective, or you're not able to identify the problem. And once you can do that, or you can at least see what's wrong with the track or whatever, then that will help you lead to the next decision that you need to make in order to proceed. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully this will inspire you guys to open up some old projects or to not give up on the future ones that you start. And thank you so much for watching. Again, be sure to like and subscribe and check out the membership stuff. I've got a lot of things to offer on this channel. So thank you so much, guys. I'll see you in the next one.